Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to finally get around to making some sort of mount or display for the Son of Whyachi weapon arm that I got from them off of eBay. This is from the 2019 season. If you don't know anything about this and you're like, what the heck is this thing? I have a separate video linked below down in the description about what this is and why I have it. So for this video, I want to kind of walk you through the process of how I'm going to be mounting and displaying this in my office. So let's get started. So here we are inside my office. It's kind of long and narrow, and we're in this side. On the other side of it is where my computer and some other stuff is, but we're kind of in the first portion of it, I guess. The door is right here, so you kind of walk in, and then over in that corner is my computer and everything. So what I wanted to do is have it displayed somewhere on the wall. I kind of originally thought about putting it up here in this little cubby or alcove, but that would require a pretty beefy and large stand because it couldn't sit flat just because the angle of how high up that is. It would need to actually stand pretty far up so that you could even see it, and then also getting it down from there if you wanted to show it to someone or hand it to someone, that would be really problematic. And what I wanted to do with this mount is make it really easy to where you could just kind of grab it, pull it off, show someone so they can hold it and touch it or whatever, and then put it back on the wall. I think there's a really big quality, tactile quality to a lot of these parts where you really want to be able to hold it and touch it and kind of, feel it and interact with it, because you need to hold it and feel the heft of it. So I wanted it to be kind of accessible. I originally thought about putting it on this wall, but I have a lot of insect mounts right here and I didn't really want to move them. I could have very easily shifted them over here, but because of the light switch, they'd be kind of up too high. So ultimately, I'm going to be mounting it on this wall. So it's going to be mounted vertically, just up here. So I needed to come up with some kind of way to hold this arm to where it's not permanently attached to the wall, so I can pretty easily pull it off, show people, do whatever, and then put it back on this wall. So let's see what I came up with. So here is the first prototype of the mount. This is just 3D printed out of PLA just to kind of get an idea for fit. And the final size, I need to move these in about 1/8 of an inch per side so it fits a little bit more snugly. So basically all this is a base plate with 2 protrusions that come out, and all I did was measure the angle here and here, put that into the blocks, and then there's a couple channels here in the back that will be used to actually mount this to the wall. So yeah, really that's all there is to it. I just need to make this out of metal and not plastic. So here's what I've got so far. It is 3 pieces of aluminum bolted together in the back with 4 1/4-20 ultra low profile screws. You can kind of see I've had these in my parts bin for a while, and they just have a really tiny head, which works out well for this application. Now I did all this manually and I didn't film anything because I don't know, sometimes I just like to go out here in the shop on a Sunday and just make stuff without a camera in my face. So really it was just a bunch of squaring operations just with a Superfly face mill and then a shear hog just to do some of the edges. So really nothing too critical here. But I basically have 3 pieces held together, and the next thing I need to do is put the angle in them, because as you can see I need to cut that angle. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. So here are the 2 end blocks, and these need to look like these. So we need to cut an angle in them. Well, you could just, I guess, theoretically use a super long end mill and just contour them around like that, but it's going to be a really nasty cut, and finding an end mill with a 3-inch length of cut is just not really going to work out. So the way that you typically do this is use an angle plate. Now I don't really have any, so I made some on the laser cutter, and what this allows you to do is you put these in the vise the same way that you would use like a parallel. Put these in the vise, the piece goes something like that, then you can clamp it, and then you can basically just face it off. I think it's actually going to go like that. You can basically just then face it off, and you're going to be left with this profile. So if I set this down the vise like that, something like that, you can kind of see that it'll just get profiled just like that. So it's really that easy. I'm going to do this basically manual, and so I'm going to do that, and then once these are done, I'm going to just do a simple program in the CNC to cut the slots and the channels for the mounting holes. So let's go over to the Tormach and get these set up to cut the angle. So as you can see, I have the part mounted into the vise. I drew a line on it from the reference of the plastic piece just to give me an idea that I have it mounted the correct way. And so all we need to do is just face that down. So I'm probably going to use the conversational routines in PathPilot just to create a little facing operation that will face this off. I'm using the Heimer just to find the top of this edge, and then I'm just going to look at the model in SOLIDWORKS and find out how much I need to go down from this edge to hit this surface that I want. The Sharpie line here really isn't as far down as I want to go. I basically want to cut in right there with that vertex. So I want to go a little bit lower than what this line is showing, just so that there's a clean angle here and not a step. So here is the conversational screen for PathPilot. Conversational programming means that you just type in some parameters and it makes the code. So you can see I'm using tool number 10, which is shear hog, 3,500 RPM, 10 feed rate, 5 Z feed rate, Z clear, that's the Z clearance, like how far above the part is going to be. I'm going to start at X0, end at 3.5, so I'm going to go that way. So this basically sets how big of a facing I'm going to do. So I'm going to start at Y0, end at 3.2, negative 3.2. I'm going to have a 0.1 step over, 100 thou step over, and then I'm going to go down about negative 0.6 inches with a depth of cut about 0.21. So this is the parameter. So if I go ahead and hit post to file, spiral facing, sure. Oh, that's going to be a spiral. I want a rectangle. There we go. So post to file, sure. And then there is our program. So it's actually going to do 4 step downs, which is kind of weird, but that's fine. And then, yeah, it's just going to go in this. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. Okay, so this program really isn't working out all that great. It's cutting a lot of air, which is fine. I can go do something else if it takes more time, but it's kind of laboring a little bit. I think the shear hog wants less width of cut, a little bit less depth of cut, and it wants to engage a little bit faster. So let me adjust the programming and run this again, starting off at kind of this level. So overall, this is cutting a little bit better. It still could be a little bit more optimized, but the beauty of CNC is that I'm actually in the office doing the editing while all this is cutting, so I can definitely multitask and get something else done and just let the machine run in the background. Once the bulk of the material was removed, I needed to get it down to where there was no angle or lip, I guess, on that left-hand side. So I just kind of adjusted it 10 thou at a time, made one quick cut, and then did that cut until that line went away. And then when that line went away, I just did the whole facing operation. And then I set this program, saved it, and then ran it on the second part. Okay, all the machining is done. You can see that these have nice little angles on them, so that went relatively well. I made an executive decision here. Instead of doing the slots and the channels that I originally had on this piece, I decided to save my time and sanity and just do 3 simple mounting holes. The reason I did this is because I'm going to end up using toggle bolts, you know, the little ones that you go like that and they expand in the wall. I apparently don't have one right in front of me, and I'm not going to be able to hit a stud. The problem with this, I originally had intended that, you know, like this side was going to hit a stud and then this side would just be some anchors into the wall. Well, the stud is like here and like here. So for this to be centered on the wall, it's never really going to hit a stud. So I'm just going to use 3 anchor points. That's going to be perfectly fine. So we've got the holes made for all that, and so those screws will fit in like that. So the last thing to do is to, I guess, do a test fit, but I can do that very quickly, and then get some kind of finish on this. I don't want to paint these because I don't really want to detract from the, I don't know, the scuffed up or the worn quality of the Son of Whyachi arm. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw these in my vibratory tumbler, and that kind of dulls the finish a little bit and kind of, it almost looks like a stone washed finish when I'm done. I use this triangle media that just kind of scuffs it up a little bit, and that'll give it kind of a worn look, and that should work well with the arm. Last thing I want to talk about with these, if you've never seen a counter boring set, these are what the things look like, and these little posts at the end unscrew. There's a couple set screws, these pull out. And basically what you can do is you can choose the size of this, choose the size of that. So this is made for that, this is the same size, and then boom. So it's really easy for making counter bores, and then this is the combination that I used in here. So it's one of those things I picked up quite a while ago and I really didn't use, but then I started using because making these little counter bores is just so much quicker and easier on the drill press than going over to the CNC and then making them with a program. So this was just a lot easier to do than doing the channels or doing any of this from CNC. So yeah, pretty cool. So let's get these in the tumbler. I'm tumbling these parts one at a time because I don't really want them to knock into each other because that could kind of dent some of the surfaces. So yeah, I'm just doing each one for maybe a couple few hours or until the finish is the way I want. So the part has been in the vibratory tumbler for about 3.5 hours, and now this is what it looks like. So these were previously the exact same part, and as you can see, all of the machining marks are pretty much gone, and it has this kind of satin finish to it, and all the edges are just barely taken down. They're still, you know, sharp edges, but they're not uncomfortable in any way like they are on this guy. So yeah, that's what the difference looks like between the two, and just as a comparison, you can see a nice reflection off of this one and just, you know, some scattered diffused reflection on this. But this is exactly what I was going for, just that nice soft satin feel. This won't be too flashy, there's no machining marks, and it won't really take away from the part at all. So yep, I'm gonna throw the others in the tumbler and have those, you know, 3 to 5 hours a piece, and I'll show you when those are done. And here is the finished mount. I'm really happy with how the finish came out. It's still a little bit delicate, so it does kind of scratch a little bit easy. And for that reason, I have some felt pads that I put on the weapon kind of in this general area so that when it's slid on, or slid on from this way, it won't damage or scratch this. I know it's kind of silly that, you know, I'd have to worry about this getting scratched or damaged, but yeah, I just really liked the look of this overall. So yeah, I think the only thing left now to do is to attach this to the wall and hang the weapon arm on it. So as you can see, I have the mount mounted to the wall. I ended up using just 3 toggle bolts into the drywall. That should be more than enough to hold this. You know, each one can easily do about 50 pounds. The arm itself is only about 35, so shouldn't be an issue. Plenty stable on there. So the only thing left to do is to take the arm and actually get it mounted on there, which might be a little bit of a challenge, but let's see how that goes. And there it is. So yeah, looks pretty good on the wall, pretty happy with it overall. I ended up splaying out the tie rods a little bit. This one's a little bit loose, this one's tight. So on that one I was able to just kind of pull it out and it just kind of stays. But on this one, I actually just took a little piece of MDF, cut this down, fits perfectly inside this little channel, and rested exactly at the angle that I wanted. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. This very solid mount. It is very solidly mounted into the wall, so I'm going to have no issues with that whatsoever. And yeah, I'm pretty happy to have a piece of Battlebots history and a piece of the legendary Son of Whyachi sitting on my wall in my office. So hopefully you liked the video. Always check out my Facebook page for more updates to my channel, things like that. Check out the rest of my videos, and thanks for watching, and see you next time.